So it's interesting more and more recently in coaching sessions and people that I meet, one common theme keeps coming up. These entrepreneurs, these business owners, I would say probably 60% of the time, or 70% of the time even, are saying that they have ADD. Now, in some cases, this is actually diagnosed ADD or ADHD, and in others, it may just be what we call the entrepreneurial ADD, or maybe undiagnosed ADD. In any case, I want you to have a listen to this episode that I sit down with this amazing ADHD coach and some of the strategies that she's going to deliver to you. Grab your pad of paper and pen, my friends. If you find yourself all over the place with your focus, losing concentration, losing focus, jumping from one activity to the next without completing the other activity, today's session may just be what you need. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Marshall Stern, and I've spent over 35 years leading and growing multiple small businesses. I know firsthand the struggles of entrepreneurship, feeling isolated, lonely, overwhelmed, and feeling like you have to do it all by yourself. I've been through multiple recessions, and I have felt the highs and the lows. I've been there, and I get it. This podcast is here to change that. Every week, I will bring you straight talking advice, real-world strategies, and honest conversations about what it takes to succeed in business without the fluff, the gimmicks, or the sugarcoating. If you're ready to stop spinning your wheels and start making real progress, then you are in the right place. This is the Stern Truth.
All right, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Stern Truth Business Unfiltered. And my friends, today we are going over the pond, as they say, to my special guest all the way from the UK. Hannah, how are you?
I am really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. As we mentioned earlier, it is sunny here in Vancouver, so it's whenever it's sunny, it's a good day.
Yeah, we don't really get much sun here over in Manchester either, to be honest, but we actually do have some sunshine for 3 days, so I'm very excited about it. We're a very, very grey city in a valley, so not the most fun, but...
Yes. So tell me a little bit about, we've had a few chats before. Tell me a little bit about like what you do and how you got into what you do.
Yeah, so I do ADHD micro coaching is what I specialize in. So I work with ADHDers and we work in quite a unique structure where I speak to them every single day for 4 minutes. And it's all about accountability coaching. So it's about creating slow, steady consistency, helping people stay on track and to get them to a point where they're not delaying their dreams anymore, right? They're actually consistently moving things forward. And I kind of fell into this a little bit. I had a background in coaching and I specialized actually in like personality profiling systems. So like human design and a couple of other different systems. And I think my fascination was actually always in like the individuality of humans and how like I was always fascinated by this, like there's no one size fits all approach to life and how like everybody is like fascinatingly individual and everyone's like version of like what a successful day looks like is completely different and everyone's conditions that set them up for success is completely different, which now looking back makes sense that it led me into neurodiversity because there's so many wonderful magical humans out there with neurodiverse traits that can really feel very dampened and dulled down by that and feel like really limited by it. And what I always loved was like helping people find their gifts and kind of like find their way back to, okay, what makes me special and how can I like step into that and enhance that and bring any weaknesses into balance. So I kind of stumbled across espresso coaching. I contracted them for a while and then I've now become a licensed espresso coach, which I've been doing for 3 years. And it's been a truly magical journey to really work with these really special, vibrant people and really help them get to where they want to be.
So it just kicked in with me. The light just went up. Espresso coaching.
Yes.
I've seen it because you've written it down. I get it now.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a conversation before we went live here. And so you work with entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
non-entrepreneurs, right? But
Yes.
you do work with entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked about this a few times now. Almost everybody I have a conversation with, probably 80% of the people I get in conversation with at some point in the conversation or at some point through our coaching relationship, usually early on, tell me they have some form of ADHD, whether it's entrepreneurial
Mhm.
ADHD or diagnosed ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah. We see a lot of our clients. I would say like anywhere from like 50 to 70%. That's like a ballpark in my head. So I'm not, don't quote me on that. But of people that come through the door. And I do think it makes sense because I think a lot of, ADHDers, they tend to be very vibrant. They want, or like they don't really necessarily enjoy fitting into a 9 to 5 structure. And that's a huge generalization, by the way. That's not always the case with ADHD. Sometimes the structure really works for them. Everyone is really unique.
Mhm.
But a huge portion of them tend to want to start their own businesses and like kind of, live or like take a slightly more independent career path because it tends to work very, very well with that neurotype. So yeah, we see it a lot.
Micro coaching.
Hmm.
So I've had a few clients where I've done for, I think it was about a month. I've done like 10-minute sessions to help them
Hmm.
build the proper habits, right?
Yeah.
10-minute sessions per day. You're talking about 4 minutes.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm just thinking as a coach myself, like how do you do that? I know obviously it's a whole, you have a system, strategy, a system, but how do
Yeah.
you 4 minutes?
Yeah. Do you know what? It always like, I feel like people always ask that question. It makes me laugh
Mm.
because I literally get asked that question all the time. We have 30 minutes. We do have like longer calls with some clients as well where we'll kind of set the direction. So it's not
Mm.
just the 4 minutes. The most of the coaching is the daily 4 minute strategy and structure. And it's surprising what can be achieved in that short amount of time, like getting somebody to reflect on the day before, understand the little things that maybe have tripped them up, and get really, really clear about where they're going within the next 24 hours. And also get like, activating the prefrontal cortex, that reflective practice, and also getting emotionally connected with where you want to
Mm.
be. But it's that whole I really feel like the power of espresso is in the reflection. And there's a great saying, and I
Mm.
really would love to know who said it. I always quote this, and it's if you reflect every month, you have better months. If you reflect every week, you have better weeks. And if you reflect every day, you have better days. And that I feel like is the essence of what it is. Like if you have a container that's held where you practice reflection on a day-to-day basis, you gain that self-visibility. That activates the prefrontal cortex anyway, which is quite dulled down by ADHD and distraction. So that self-reflective practice of like, sorry, something's just come off on my screen there, threw me off a little bit. Sorry, 1 second.
No? This is Business
Um,
Unfiltered.
yeah, exactly. But that self-reflective practice, that container, like that, I think like with ADHD, we can be quite like they can be quite like tuned out, I guess, to their patterns. And when we have that opportunity to kind of get on the day level and really notice, like, okay, well, I wasn't so successful today. Why was that? What tripped me up? And what could I try differently, even just 1% differently tomorrow to kind of get us on the way? Those small little like daily adjustments,
Mhm.
it's that keeps us on track because sometimes when you're working with someone on that month level, you're so zoomed out, you don't actually know what's going on. And when you get to that day level with people, there's just this like you can literally see, oh, like that really tiny thing that seemed insignificant. That's where the success was. I remember working with someone ages ago, and he worked. We couldn't figure out why Thursday was always a successful day, and we were like, okay, this is really weird. And we figured out after a couple of weeks that he was volunteering at the school in the morning, and that
Mm.
volunteering session for him, it gave him a sense of purpose. It was something that really mattered to him. He felt like he was giving back to his community. And once we understood, okay, it's that quality that gets you going, then we could reapply that to like other days in the week. It's just something simple like sending a message to a member of his community just to reach out and connect, and like little things like that. So I actually feel like that day level is sometimes key to making lasting change because it's always in the simple stuff, the simple,
Mm.
tiny tweaks and changes. That's where the magic is for a lot of people.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, I love that. So you mentioned the word distractions. And one of the things I work with my clients on, and I want to really go here because our distractions are probably not just for non-business owners, but for business owners, for entrepreneurs probably I've seen one of the biggest business killers.
Yeah.
Whether you have ADHD or diagnosed or entrepreneurial ADHD, so we can talk about this as well, because there is a superpower in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I remember us talking about this before, so I want to get to that because I don't want people watching this or listening to this thinking like something's wrong with them. In fact, use it here. Like there's power in that. That's why so many entrepreneurs have it, or so many people who have ADHD become entrepreneurs because of that. But the distractions for most people just halts their growth, halts their progress. So what are some strategies? And we love the golden nuggets here on the Stern Truth. What are some strategies? What are some things that people can do to help them work through it and crush it?
Yeah. Okay. Couple things. I feel like actually getting clear on what your smoke alarm is and noticing that is probably one of the best things to do with distraction. So like knowing what's your pattern when you start distracting yourself, what's the pattern that you generally follow? Like I had one client who every time he was distracted, there's always a reason, right? There's usually for procrastination and distraction, right? There's usually fear or lack of clarity. Often fear is if we've not got a clear plan, if things aren't broken down enough, we can get overwhelmed. Then the fear kind of comes in. So often when we're procrastinating, there's something that we're avoiding or we're feeling a little bit uncomfortable. So it's always like, what's the smoke alarm? Like what behavior sets the smoke alarm off so you can catch yourself before we go too far down the rabbit hole? So one thing, like one client, he kept finding himself reorganizing the wires on his desk to try and find a better system, or he would reorganize his organizing system constantly. And whenever he found himself in that trap, he was like, okay, something's not right. Either I'm not clear or there's fear there and I'm avoiding something. So there are two things to really notice. Like when we are distracted, why are we distracted? What's actually going on there? And then noticing what behaviors. For me, I always know when things are a little bit off in the morning if I've not made my bed, which I know is a bit of a weird thing, but like if I've not made my bed in the morning, I'm like, okay, I know that things could go sideways today and I'm going to pay attention to that. So everybody has their little quirks. So get clear on the smoke alarm of like what behaviors are setting your smoke alarm off that we need to pay attention. And then it's understanding, are we lacking clarity or is there fear? And fear has an Achilles heel because fear shrinks in the light of consciousness. So if there's a fear holding us back from something and we bring it into the light of consciousness, it helps us to really see what's actually going on there, and we're much more likely to be able to move through that fear once we shine a light on it and bring it to the surface. Another thing with distraction, there was something else I wanted to touch on here, which was sorry, I'm just checking my notes because I made some really good notes before we jumped on here, is in the recovery. So we have the smoke alarm of like, okay, this is the behavior that is helping us notice that we're going off track. Then it's about like, okay, how do we get back on the horse? How do we recommit? What's needed in order for us to get back on track? So again, and this is why I was talking about like the day level, that daily reflection and self-literacy becomes really important because everyone's getting back on the horse looks really, really different, right? For some people, it's just getting some movement in and then they'll be back to it. Or we can look at this from like a bigger, more zoomed out cycle perspective. Like I have a client who starts veering off track and then they're like, right, no, I need a deep journaling session. I've got to process whatever's here. And then once that's done, I can park it and move on, right? So it's what is your getting back on the horse strategy? What gives you that reset, right? Some people it's breath work, meditation. It can be just giving yourself a shake, right? Or I know one person I work with used to imagine a big pair of scissors above her head, like chopping the thought, and then that would be how she moved on. So it's almost like the getting back on the horse. It's almost like, what's your pattern interrupter? What do you need to get in place to then help you reorient once distraction has taken you off track? And they sound quite zoomed out in general. And this is why that day level is so helpful, because if you're reflecting every day, you're catching yourself when you're going off track, you're noticing what the subtleties were. And then you're understanding, okay, well, what worked that day where I reset really quickly? What was that? I didn't go off for 2 hours there. I went off for 5 minutes. What helped me reset and get back on track? Another client that I work with will have to go back to his plan and just reconnect with the plan. And then as soon as he's done that, then he can get back into the day. So yeah, they're just a couple of things that I've seen work with people. But again, like, that container for daily reflection is so helpful in that process of really seeing, okay, like starting to understand what sets you up for success, because everyone is so wonderfully unique and they
Mhm.
all have these different like quirks that they can really lean into when they really understand themselves. And we get that through that daily reflection and self-visibility.
So look, there's all these books out there and podcasts out there and experts out there. There's the Atomic Habits. Building the proper habits. There's the 4-day work week. There's so many productivity tools out there for people. There's no shortage of it, right? How does okay? Talked about this a bit before. So I was in a follow-up session with someone who was looking to hire me as their coach.
Mhm.
And this was they kept scheduling the follow-up chat, gave the proposal. We had a couple follow-up conversations on it. And he just kept saying he's just doesn't think. And I've heard this from a couple people, actually. Um, Basically, in a way, I don't think you can handle me. I don't think I'm the right client for you. And we dug deeper. I don't think I'm going to do the work. I'm just all over the place. And I had another one earlier in the year that simply and said the same thing. Like, I'm too much of a challenge. There's just no way. I don't think I can do it. I don't think you'll be able to do it. I'm too much. Yet they want it, but they're so, I don't know if the word, I guess, scattered.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and one of the things I help my clients with is to get through that. And because there's so much noise out there, right? There's so much noise, first of all, in here, like within the 6, 7 inches or whatever, right? There's so much noise just in our own mind, but then online there's so much noise, and in the world right in front of us there's so much noise. Employees, all that kind of stuff. What do you say to people who first you have to want it, right? You have to want the change, okay? Whether they bring on a coach or mentor to help them or guide them, whether they
Yeah.
come to you or they come to me or they go to someone, in the end it does come back to you said something a few minutes ago. I wrote it down. Fear shrinks in the light of confidence.
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Consciousness. Sorry, consciousness. Oh,
Yeah.
that's even more powerful. Okay. Actually, could be and confidence too, but consciousness.
True.
How do you know when fear, like with your clients, okay,
Mhm.
how do you know, and do you know where it is actually fear? Like there's tools and strategies you can give them, but procrastination, I mean, I'm going all over the map here because it really is all over the map. Maybe I need a session with you. People procrastinate for different reasons. How do we, I'll just say we, myself included, right? How do we want something. Everybody wants something. Everybody wants to achieve something or grow to something. Everybody wants more. Let's say it's everybody wants more in some part of their life. How do we slow it down and on our own, how do we slow it down and focus on what is right in front of us? Not right in front of us, but the important things right in front of us and avoid, I guess really it is the distractions. It's the noise out
Yeah.
there. And it's not just necessarily the noise like all the experts, online experts, but it's also the email, the dings and the tings and all the distractions there and the dog coming in the room and kids and all the stuff in our life. But how do we calm the noise?
Mm. Yeah, this is an interesting question. I think well, one really, really brilliant tool that I got actually was from The Values Factor by Dr. Demartini. I don't know if you've ever looked at any of his
Mhm.
work. He's an incredible person, and his book is brilliant if anyone is interested in reading it. But it's an exercise where you determine your values, and it's not on what you think matters to you, it's what you actually spend your time doing. So it's quite a confronting
Hmm.
exercise, but it's really interesting. And I get a lot of clients to do that because, or just really ask them, what is it that truly matters to you? What's your why? Right. And I think you mentioned
Mhm.
that earlier as well, because when the why is big enough, the how is easy. But also when we're really connected with our why, it gives us, and our values, right? They give us a filter through
Mhm.
which we can make decisions. So, one of my values is spaciousness. Like, I love that sense of spaciousness in the day, and that's really important to me. So when making business decisions, that's actually a huge thing that I use to filter any decisions or anything that I want to do. Similarly, if I was choosing an exercise routine, I really like spaciousness. So I don't want to feel like I have to exercise every single day for an hour a day. That's too much for me. But what feels spacious and juicy, and that for me is sustainable because it plays into what really matters for me. And people with ADHD are very interest focused. So this becomes even more important for them because that's where that natural intrinsic motivation comes from. Because when something truly matters to you, you feel an emotional connection with that thing, you're much more likely to be able to do it. I had a really interesting conversation with an ADHD the other day, and she was saying, I would really struggle with time management. I'm always late and I can't seem to get there on time. And then a friend of mine said to me, it really hurts me when you don't respect my time, and when you don't turn up on time, because it feels like you don't respect my time, and my time is really important to me. And she said, as soon as she said that, I was never late again. And I was like, that's really interesting because it's clearly playing into something that is a really core thing that really matters for you, which is you being there for a friend, right? Or, whatever the value is when you strip it back at the core. So I think that it's that deep work, getting really still, really quiet, connecting, like when you're in that moment of flow, what is it? Like, what is that feeling of like for me, like I found spaciousness because I was like, what actually matters to me? And it was like, I like just hopping in the car and nipping off to different meetings and stuff. And it was that feeling of like, it was not just one sit at a desk all the time. And that's quite a weird thing to finally get to. So it's a lot about kind of finding the threads of what feels good, even if it doesn't make sense. And when you start to follow them back, they tend to lead back to one place. And when you find those core values, they can be really incredibly helpful from keeping you on track and helping you filter out the noise to really connect with what's right for you.
I love that. And it really does come back to our why and the values,
Yeah.
and what's important. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially as entrepreneurs, we forget about that, right? And we just get lost in the day today.
Yeah.
Of all the mess, all the to-dos, all the noise, because and I work with my clients, a lot of my clients, or a lot of people out there, especially small business owners, especially solopreneurs, the one-person show, get stuck in that employee mindset, which is just doing what's right in front of them. And just doing, as Michael Gerber says in the email, doing. And you really forget about the vision. You forget about the why. You forget about the important stuff, right? I want to talk about, two things. Time blocking for people who are distracted or ADHD or entrepreneurial ADHD, which is almost everyone. And I want to talk about accountability.
Okay.
These are two areas that I really focus on with my clients. Yeah. And I know time blocking is different, should be different, set up differently for someone who has ADHD versus someone who doesn't. Yes.
I'm probably going to challenge this one a little bit.
Please. Yeah.
I have seen time blocking work brilliantly for some people and is that absolute detriment for other people. And I think, again, it comes down to that individuality. And, I think sometimes we can be quite, I guess we can almost put people in boxes a little bit to an extent of like neurotypical, not neurotypical. But actually, I'm not saying that, I don't look at the fact that people have ADHD or they're not, right? That is, of course, a consideration, but really it actually comes down to the individual and what works for them. I'm very neurotypical and time blocking for me feels horrendous, but I'm much better at being a little bit more like, I'll protect a block of time, but I'll be intuitive with what I put in it. Like my strategy of like how I deal with that is different. With ADHDers, I've noticed that some of them need the structure and they need the specifics, and particularly the AU ADHDers, the ones with autism as well, they tend to need a bit more structure and consistency. And they can kind of get a bit wobbly if something kind of comes in and changes that structure. So there needs to be a strategy of like reorientation involved in that. That's really important. But I have also seen ADHDs that cannot even understand a time block and can't see it. And they can have like anchor points or like protected areas of the day that have a rough idea of what they're going to do, then there needs to be a containment of sorts, but specific time blocking can become like really, really overwhelming because they can't keep up, and a lot of them can't even see the specifics of what they've put in, even if they've made it. So, we might say, right, this is our protected creative time. This is our protected business development time. Or some people, like, windows can be more helpful than exact blocks. So, like, say, even if we're leaving the house, say, right, we need to have left the house anywhere between 8:30 and 9:15, right? So not having as much rigidity in time blocking for ADHDers can be a lot more helpful, because that can kind of be a little bit anxiety inducing, essentially. So a little bit more flexibility, I would say, for ADHDers that do use it. I have some that like to set intentions for the day and leave it really loose. So they will get really, really clear on their top 3 priorities. But as soon as they create structure in time, that creates pressure, and they panic and they freeze. So some people, if they have their 3 priorities for the day, they need to just be completely fluid with when that happens, as long as there's always an anchor point and a containment to an extent, right? So how they begin the day could be like light a candle, open a window, have a glass of water. And at the end of the day, something like a 15-minute walk, right? So they do have bookends to an extent, but how they then fill that time is a lot more intuitive and fluid. And again, it's so unique to that person. And you only know and start to learn what works for you, again, by experimentation. Like you mentioned before, like Atomic Habits, all of the systems out there. None of those are bad, none of them. However, I see people get caught in the trap all the time of like, I need to make the 5 a.m. miracle mornings work. And if I do that, I am a successful human being. And I'm not saying that 5 a.m. miracle mornings are bad. They're not. For some people, they are fantastic. They'll do that for the rest of their lives. It works amazing. But like so many people, I see them trying to fit into these systems and boxes that aren't made for them. And then they get so frustrated, and it just chips away at your self-esteem over time, to a point where you just create the belief that you can't function like a normal human. And if you don't fit into these sometimes fairly unrealistic systems of success, then you're broken. And that's just not true. It's all about, cherry pick, learn from different systems. They're amazing, and there's so much information out there, but it's all about the experimentation and the implementation. And if it doesn't fit for you, that is okay. Let's try something else, right? Because you will find your little golden nugget eventually. But again, it's all about trial and error. And I really, really see that with clients, especially because I get to see them on that day level as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And 100%. I mean, there is, people do think they need to, like, whether it's Atomic Habits or something else, another system, it does chip away, chips away your self-esteem. And not, like we talked about, not one size fits all. So even when I talk about time blocking, I know it's like I do it in a certain way. I'm not saying you should do it exactly the same way. I'm not telling my clients, do it this way. I have my 5 core blocks that I have, right? But it is about setting an intention. And it does, like, I'm not going to move the camera, but I keep a whole stack of daytimers that I bought over the years. I was a daytimer junkie. I loved, like, but I kept buying new ones. One year, I think I bought 4 throughout the year, 4 or 5 throughout the year, trying different ones because, oh, this one looks sexy. Oh, this is nice. It's leather bound. Oh, this one has all this. But then it comes with all this fluff,
Yeah.
Write down your daily journal, write down what you want, your manifestation, write down all the stuff. And then inside of it is like, they give you like this much for the actual day. And it's a bunch of just fluff around it, right? I created my own, what works for me.
Nice.
So again, I don't think one system fits. Yeah. Well, we know one system doesn't fit all, regardless of what all the experts are saying.
Yeah.
And we do feel bad about ourselves when we try it. It's like, it's not working for us. Like 5 a.m. club. God bless you. You could do it. Good for you. If I'm doing it, I'm falling asleep at probably 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. I know, it just made me laugh then, because the amount of clients that have jumped on their first call with me and shown me all of the timers that they have on their desk really makes me laugh. But again, like, Pomodoro cycles are a huge thing that we lean on with ADHD clients, and they do tend to help a lot of people. But they're kind of like Marmite; they either love it or hate it. Do you have Marmite in the US?
What is it?
No.
What is it?
Oh no.
What is
Okay.
it?
It's like this spread, but it's really like bitter.
Oh, okay. I think
And
so.
you either love it or
Um,
hate it, but that's
yeah.
their marketing. Sorry, that's so funny. I just forgot that probably wouldn't translate. But any Brits listening, you'll get it.
Okay. Accountability. Talk to me. Talk to me, Hannah. Accountability. How do you hold your clients accountable? Someone who's struggling with executive functioning, whether it's diagnosed or not or whatever, how for them to hold, it's always hard for all of us. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter who we are, what we have or don't have. Accountability is hard for us to hold ourselves accountable. When you're an employee, you got a boss to hold you accountable. When you're in school, you got a teacher or a prof. When you're a kid, you have, whether you do it or not, your parents. Okay. What do you think? How does accountability work with someone who actually has a little bit more on their plate to deal with?
Yeah. I think accountability, especially in like the role that I play, often just comes back to just holding a mirror up to people because it's just easy to forget what's important. And I think a lot of us will have like a core tendency to like keep coming back to the same thing over and over again. Like my thing with my coach was like, but I just need to do more. And every time she'd be like, hey, remember all of this stuff that we've spoken about? And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, back on
Mm,
track. So I think that having someone to act as a mirror to you can be the most helpful thing. And social accountability is probably one of the most powerful. I think we like people who get like more out of human deadlines and alarms and reminders. I think it's like you get 5 to 10 times more out of social accountability than you do from, like just setting little things for yourself. So I would say, even if you can create that with a buddy, like, it doesn't always have to be a coach if you feel like you're not in a place where you can invest in that. It can be an accountability partner. There's so many places
mm,
that you can find those online on different forums and stuff like that. But again, it comes down to that container to notice what's working and what's not working, to
mm,
come back to yourself every day and to have someone to hold up a mirror to you to remind you, because it's so easy to fall back into those patterns because it's really difficult to see ourselves when we're just in the washing machine of the day to day, right? So having that moment, protected time for you to pull yourself out and have someone to hold a mirror up to you just to remind you of what you said yesterday, or like, when you set your monthly goals or whatever that is, or to remind you when they notice that pattern coming up again that keeps coming up, right? That person that can hold that space for you will just gently nudge you in that direction. But a lot of the time, I think accountability, a lot of it is just holding space for the
mm,
person to see it themselves. Because in that daily reflection, even if someone goes off track and starts making that mistake that they always make, sometimes it's really helpful to just hold for that space for them while they do it, because they're reflecting. They start to notice when something comes up that's really going to send them off track. And that's actually sometimes more powerful than someone telling you, right? Because you've had the felt experience of going down that pathway again, noticing, stopping yourself and being like, oh my God, I did that thing again. Okay, next time I'm going to catch myself earlier and earlier and earlier until you get a lot more practiced at noticing when you start veering off. So I actually think the accountability in the mirror is helpful, but the container for reflection is so empowering, because that's when you start to catch yourself and you don't need someone else to catch you, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, I really like that. Okay. You've already shared a ton so far. Okay. And before we go, I know there's a few more gold nuggets that you can share with us. So you're on. This is
Yeah.
your
Okay.
time now. Give it to us. Give the stern truth. Give us some gold nuggets to help us.
Okay. I would say the first principle that I work with is like, you are your greatest resource. So make sure you're resourced, right? Like as much as you can. And it can be so interesting with clients, but they'll come and they'll have these huge goals of the things they want to achieve. And we'll get on the day level and it's like they're not eating, they're not sleeping, and they're not exercising. And it's like, okay, right, we need to kind of strip things back. So that foundation of well-being is the key to everything. And I think people can really misunderstand how vitally important that is. And what I do see with a lot of clients, especially the business owners, they'll have these huge goals and they're absolute geniuses. And once that foundation's in place and strong, they start taking care of the goals anyway, and they almost don't really need me to help them with that. They need me to help them with the foundation, because the foundation holds everything. So that is my absolute number one for working with people. The second thing is with ADHDers in particular, but I think all human beings, is like practicing activating that prefrontal cortex. So that's the part of the brain that's dulled down by distraction and ADHD, and getting emotionally connected with your goals and where you want to be, or your why, as you said, and that container for daily reflection, that self-literacy that we gain from that relationship to self, and that self-understanding of what sets me up for success as a unique human being, that is also activating the prefrontal cortex. It helps us with emotional regulation. It's a really, really, really powerful tool. So emotional connection and practicing daily reflection, contain it. Find a way to contain your daily reflection, because it will help you leaps and bounds. There's a great saying in Chinese medicine that if you put a piece of paper down every day, in a year, you'll have a board you can't break. And I love that so much. So that container for daily reflection, and also what's the micro action you can take today, right? It does not have to be all or nothing. So try to leave that mindset behind. Even if we're just taking the 0.1% action, that atomic habits thing of just go to the gym, even if you don't go in, just sit in the car park and go home.
I do that all the time.
But it's that thing, isn't it? Like, just become the person that goes to the gym every day, and then slowly we start to build from there. But it's so powerful to build your self-esteem, because it's not just going to the gym, right, and just getting in the car park. What you're saying to yourself is, I'm showing up for myself, and that builds your self-esteem. And if we're doing the tiny little 0.1% every day, that compounds over time to make a massive difference, and we start moving in a very, very different direction. And then, so yeah, like, leave the all or nothing mindset behind. What are the micro actions? And those small, tiny things that we do every day make the biggest difference. And I've seen this time and time again with clients. I've had the privilege of working with people for over 3 years and witnessing them every day. This is the most powerful thing that you can do to get yourself there. Even if it seems so silly, you're like, of course I can do that. They're the best ones, because they will get you there. And finally, I would say develop your get back on the horse muscle. So, like, what is your recovery time? How can we get that recovery time to be shorter? Because every time when we fall off and we go off track and we notice and we reorient, there is so much power in that. It's not about setting a routine and a system and staying in that forever, and then we'll like happy clappy skip off into the sunset. No, that doesn't exist, right? We're human beings. Like, we'll fall off track all the time. A holiday will come up, something will send us off in a different direction. It's not about getting it perfect, but it's about becoming an expert about getting back on track. What's your strategy for that? How do you reorient, and what are the key things that you need to have in place to get you back on track and help you recover quicker when we do go off track, because we always will.
Do you do workshops?
No.
Webinars?
No, not one, actually.
Yeah.
No.
I might have to do one with you. We might meet. Like, seriously, like, there's so many things here that are just like so amazing. And I really hope that people are listening to this. So I'm just going to talk to our listeners right now. I'm going to assume you're still with us, because this has been so powerful. Like, share this with your friends, like, whether they are in business or not. Like, the tools and strategies that Hannah's given us today, and the way to just think about things, the way for us to think about ourselves and how we roll. Because everyone, like you said, everyone's different. That's why one day timer does not work for everyone, right? Even a written day timer. A quick story. Like, I always tell my wife and my daughter, like, I live by my, so I have an iPhone, so I live by the notes section. I use a written day timer, right? And my calendar, like online calendar, but also I use my notes app on the iPhone, like the iPhone app, for scheduling and for the important things. Or, if I have an idea, I put it in there, and then I'll set a date to remind me about it. That kind of thing, right? That's what works for me. If I had it in a physical day timer, first of all, I'm not with it all the time. I'm not going to carry this big, but that works for me. So I always tell them, like, they always say, my daughter will say, and she's like 23, she'll say, oh, can you email me this or not me, text me this so I remember. Like, put it in your notes thing and put a time on it, or you could put a location reminder, right, to remind you when you're certain. She says, no, I don't want to use it. I said, well, you should try it. It won't work for her. She would never use it. Okay, fair enough. So she sends herself reminders all the time. She'll text herself as a reminder. That's what works for her.
Yeah.
I don't get
Yeah.
it, but everyone's different.
Yeah.
Because the notes app is actually can be quite powerful, but everyone's different. And some people love writing things down, right? And having and there is power in writing. Well, we know that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's just being active in the process of troubleshooting and
Yeah.
improvement. And as long as you're engaged in life, that's why, again, the container for daily reflection, intention setting is so powerful, weekly, whatever you can manage. But like that sense of being actively engaged in life of like, okay, this thing keeps tripping me up. What system can I put in place, right? So I get so many clients coming to me, they're like, what's the answer? Give me the strategy. And I'm like, there isn't one, right? You have to go out there and start playing around. And I'm going to make sure that you keep experimenting until you find the way. But there's so many ways out there and there's so many pathways you can take. So yeah, it's all about like, and if you say like your note system, like if you try to sell that in a course, it probably like it's quite simple, right? Like you don't need to sell that. It just exists. But it's like, that's the thing, because you've just developed it and it works for you, but absolutely everybody is like wildly different and there's so much information out there and stuff we could try. So yeah, that's the magic. I love it. I love the individuality of humans. I love getting into the nitty gritty with people. It's my favorite.
So having said that, I just want to correct myself because I don't want people to look at their iPhones like he uses the notes. No, the reminders. It's the reminders app. It's the reminders app because you can put the time and whatever. It's the reminders app. The notes, you can't do that. Notes are just notes. But I do use reminders even for notes as well. So I have different like folders in there. So if I remind myself, but then I'll put a time on it. So it's not just this because even like Google Docs, like trying to find you do something in Google Docs and then someone like it's not a proper filing system. But for me, the reminders thing works. Okay, so I've kept you longer than I told you I would because I knew you were going to be delivering so much. And this conversation is so important. Is there one final, you shared so much with us and thank you. Is there one final gold nugget, tidbit?
I guess it's just for ADHDers out there that are kind of like, that client you mentioned before that you were on with that just feel like that they can't change, because I have seen so many people completely change their perspective on that. And again, you don't have to overhaul your life. You don't have to like have these huge goals that you need to work towards. Like it's those tiny 1% changes that make the world of difference. And the more I get why you're there as well, like so many people, like they've tried to fit into boxes that don't fit for them. They've chipped away at their self-esteem and their self-belief. And it makes sense that they're feeling that way. But I've seen people time and time again, start making small changes, stay on track with it. And again, it's not falling into that all or nothing mindset. If you just make those tiny little tweaks and changes, 1% every day, 0.1% even, like you will get there. But yeah, like trust that you can absolutely believe that you can get to that point of like really building on your self-esteem, building momentum and making lasting changes. I've seen people who thought it was impossible to create routines that they've been really consistent with for years, right? Like this is absolutely possible for people, but it's just finding your way to get there.
I love that. That's a great final gold nugget. And I thank you. So I know in the show notes, I've got all the information of how people can get in touch with you. If they want to, I guess in there as well, if they want to, is there like a discovery session? Like if they just want to,
Yeah, so I'm over on LinkedIn for anyone who wants to connect with me. And then my webpage is also below, so you can book a discovery call with me if anyone wants to have a chat about the micro coaching and see if it's a fit for them, or even just have a conversation. We offer like a free 15-minute strategy session for people to kind of break down their goals a little bit as well. So yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who feels like this could really help them.
That's awesome. And I think what you're doing is amazing. The work you're doing is amazing. So, and I'm glad we connected and I really thank you. And whether we do a webinar or workshop together, or I have you back on this podcast, something's going to have to happen because there's so much more I know you can help us with.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'd love to get involved. I love talking about this and I love just helping people. It's such a nice feeling to kind of yeah, know that it just gives anyone a sense of even like a little bit of relief. It
Yeah.
means the world. So
Perfect. So thank
yeah.
you. And for all of you listening, like seriously, give this thing, scroll down to the main page, give it a 5-star review, comment, like, share, subscribe, share it, but really share it with your friends, share it with colleagues. Just say, hey, check out this episode. It might really change the way it's going to really help people, I think, change the way they look at themselves and what is possible. Because even if it's like going to the gym, and I've done this before, I have my routine, and one day I might not be feeling so great about it, but I get there and maybe I don't do the full workout. Maybe I'm on the treadmill for 10 minutes instead of 30 because I've had a heavy dinner or whatever, and I'm just not feeling it, but I'm there, as opposed to just sitting on the couch and not doing it, not following through on the commitment I made to myself. So at least I'm there, and I know tomorrow or the next time I'll have a better workout. Or even just driving there, right, is a step, as you said, that 0.01 or the 0.1%, just driving there. I've driven to the gym on the weekend and it's packed. Like I can't find a parking spot and I'm circling for 10 minutes and then I go home. It's like, but honestly, but at least in my mind, I have gone. Like I haven't actually worked out, but I did make the attempt. And that is just the tiny little step makes a huge difference. Now, I don't do it all the time because it's driving around and it's not going to do anything. And that's what I think people forget. It's like, oh, I'll just drive around. I'll just open up my computer. I'll just do something. And then you continually just do that. It's about progression. It's about little steps, right?
Yeah, getting started. Absolutely.
Getting started. So, okay, enough with me rambling on. Thank you so much. I'm going to let everyone go. We'll see you again next week on another episode of The Stern Truth Business Unfiltered.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Stern Truth. If you found today's episode helpful, we would love to hear from you. Please like, share, and leave us a review. Also, if you'd like to be a guest in an upcoming episode or join us in one of our Momentum Accountability Group sessions, simply email me to marshall@marshallstern.net. That's marshallstern.net. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep pushing forward and leading with confidence.